I don't think it's worth disputing that Bill Belichick belongs on the Mount Rushmore of NFL head coaches. He's got 6 Super Bowl titles, 9 conference championships. It's really, really hard to argue against that. Now, if you want to throw in some of the cheating stuff, fine. Like, you could use that to diminish his legacy a little bit. But at the end of the day, the results speak volumes. However, over the past couple of years, it has been fair to question, like, just how great really is Bill Belichick without Tom Brady? And for the Patriots dynasty over 2 decades, was Belichick the most important part of their success? Or was it Tom Brady? Well, if you have been one to think that it might be Tom Brady, him going the first year in 2020 down to Tampa, winning a Super Bowl, and having them in the playoffs 3 straight years, lends a lot of supporting evidence towards your cause. It really does. And I think a lot of that has to do ultimately with Bill Belichick, the head coach, being great, and Bill Belichick, the general manager, being absolutely dog shit terrible at his job. And if Bill Belichick, the general manager, was better at his job, it would be a lot easier for Bill Belichick, the head coach, to have even more success. You get what I'm saying? Like, Belichick, one of the greatest coaches of all time. But in terms of general managers in today's NFL, he is at the absolute fucking bottom. Period. Name me 5 general managers with any type of tenure in the NFL that are worse than him. I'll wait. And it's year after year. You can really question the Patriots' draft approach, their philosophy. And you want to excuse it sometimes to say, but it's the Patriots. They know what they're doing. Do they? They've got a number of high pick busts in recent years and a bunch of draft classes recently that haven't contributed a whole lot over a long period of time. I really question that kind of they've earned the benefit of the doubt argument. You're now a few years away from the Brady years. It's time to stop giving him quite so much the benefit of the doubt. And as approaching this NFL draft this year, the Patriots really needed to have an offense-first mentality and philosophy. It doesn't mean every pick needed to be on offense per se. It just needed to be heavily prioritized throughout the first 3 days. Specifically playmakers, pass catchers. Because you spent a first-round pick on Mac Jones, and as much as it seems like they're not fully bought into him and they're not fully convinced he's the guy, in part because of how little they seem to have wanted to invest in him for some fucking reason, why would you spend the 15th overall pick on Mac Jones in 2021 and then put him into a dog shit offense with dog shit talent? And oh, by the way, have Matt Patricia be a fucking key offensive mind for him. Like, who the fuck does that? Seriously. That is absolute stupidity. So for the Patriots, I was looking to them to say, you got to get what you can out of Mac Jones and find out if he could be the guy or not. And even if you want to buy into the Bailey Zappi bullshit, okay, well then replace the name Mac Jones with Bailey Zappi. What fucking difference does it make? Either way, you've got 2 young quarterbacks. Put talent around them. Build around them. And of course, Belichick fucking didn't the first 2 days. Stick to the board my ass. Now, I will call out, it's hard to knock him for taking Christian Gonzalez at pick 17. Because Christian Gonzalez was a top 5-ish type talent in this draft, in my opinion. They were able to trade back 3 spots from 14 to get him. They got what to me was the top-rated corner in this draft, 12 picks after the Seahawks had taken Devin Witherspoon with the 5th overall pick. It's really, really hard to knock that pick in a bubble. Now you could say, hey, for a team that needed some real help at the skill positions outside, you could have been ahead of the run of wide receivers and traded back from 14 to 17 and taken a wide receiver there. Agreed, right? Like Flowers, Najigba, Addison, like whatever receiver you might have had your eyes on, take one of them here. But, like I said, in a bubble, hard to knock the Patriots for what they did on day one. That was a good job of kind of manipulating the draft. So they got a top-rated corner, which I'm sure was a need, but again, he's not going to catch fucking balls from whoever's starting at quarterback. So I gave the Patriots a B for day one because of the fact that they got a top 5 player at 17, were able to trade back a few spots and still do that. I might have given them an A if they'd have taken a wide receiver there. So following up on that day one pick, like I said, really hard to knock them for that. I was thinking, okay, maybe the Patriots turn around in day 2 and focus on the offensive side of the ball, which of course they fucking didn't. Now, again, this could be a situation where I look at Keion White, and I had a borderline first-round grade on him to get him in round 2. Like, he has first-round traits. He has some real upside. So I like that pick in a bubble. Marte Matu could be a small school steal, and I think really fits Belichick's defense well. Those picks in a bubble. Like, Matu in round 3 didn't, throw me off at all. White, where they got him in round 2, didn't throw me off at all. But when you start looking at the body of the draft of the first 2 days, in a league where offense is more important than ever, where you've got young quarterbacks, and the guy who spent a first-round pick a couple of years ago going into his 3rd year in the league with a substandard receiving core to throw the fucking ball to, and you invest your first 3 picks on the defensive side of the ball, that's really fucking dumb. That's a really dumb, bad general manager, dumb, bad draft philosophy and approach, period. Argue with the fucking wall. At least when it came to day 3, they started to invest, the Patriots, on the offensive side of the ball. I think Jake Andrews can be a starter on the interior of that offensive line. If Ryland ends up nabbing the kicking job in the long term, this pick will look pretty good. If so or Mate can start at guard, either one of them can start at some point, then those will be good picks. Like Kayshon Boutte, I thought was overrated. Honestly, I thought the Patriots almost, you could argue, reached for him a little bit because he was not that great of a talent as you might have thought. But it wasn't that much of a reach. There's a little bit of upside there, but I even think his upside is really overblown. And to me, it's crazy to have waited as long as they did in the draft to address wide receiver. That was missing the mark here. Baringer's got a strong leg. He needs to work on some of the fine points of punting in terms of hang time, in terms of directional punting and control. I like Demario Douglas. Frankly, I had a higher grade of Demario Douglas as a wide receiver than I did Kayshon Boutte. So if I was going to put my money on one of these 2 guys to actually make the roster and never have any contributions at all, it's going to be Demario Douglas, not Boutte. They spent a couple late picks on corners like Speed and Bolden. They've got some athletic traits. At least they invested on offense on day 3, but they needed to invest on offense throughout this whole draft. When you look at the first 2 days, like I said, kind of hard to knock them in a bubble for taking Gonzalez, especially once they traded back from 14 to 17 to do so. Hard to knock them for taking White where they did and Mate where they did. But starting off this draft with 3 straight defensive players was gross negligence and stupidity. How does that set Mac Jones up for success? How does that make him better? They needed skill, they needed speed, and they got very little of that in this draft. So I thought this was an average at best draft for the Patriots. And certainly if I was a Patriots fan, I'd be concerned about, is Belichick starting to get into that Chuck Noll, Don Shula, game has passed him by kind of place in his career? Because this approach in this draft shows me that Bill Belichick flunked the fucking assignment.